guys in the dark.
I got called into work from 5 to 10 p.m. I decided to take it, being a gamer, and that means making more money. So I decided to go in. I did my 5 hours. It came time to restock games, merchandise, and the accessories. I was with 2 others, one of my managers, who I had developed a friendship with, and another coworker, who I have gotten close to. We'll call my manager Felix, my coworker Bryce. Bryce happened to be vacuuming and putting things on the shelves and the walls. Felix was counting the money in the register. Everything was quiet, going very well, until the phone rings. We thought that it was just a customer, and since we closed at 9, it being about 9:30, 9:45, we didn't answer it. Takes about an hour or 2 to clean up and everything else. They called immediately back. Felix had answered. "Hello, thank you for calling GameStop. How can I help you?" Bryce and I had stopped what we were doing so we could listen to whatever is going on. The look on his face kind of shook me. Out of the silence, all he said was, "Yeah, I'll let my employees know, and we'll talk about it." Both Bryce and I asked him what was going on. What was told to us was really scary. It didn't make any sense. Felix said that there is someone calling every GameStop in this area, threatening to rob one. He said that he was targeting this one. We don't know if it happens to be a joke or not. But we do need to lock the back door and be careful. It doesn't matter if it's a joke or not. We shouldn't take any chances. Felix told Bryce and I to go into the back room, make sure that the huge metal alarm door was locked and shut all the way. As he was saying this, the phone starts to ring. Felix answers it with the thought that it could be the same person that he was talking to before. As he answered it, there was no one on the other end. There was absolute silence. After Felix had hung up, they called right after, like not even a second later. Felix picks up, greeted them with the "Thank you for calling GameStop," and it was the same. It was all silence. Felix hung up. They called back, again and again. Felix had picked up and greeted them once again, but this time it was just heavy breathing. This happened a couple more times. It got to the point that Bryce took the phone and kept pressing the end button. Whoever they are, they had their number shown on our phone. After calling, and they kept getting rejected, they finally stopped. Everything started to die down, so Bryce and I was going to take out the trash in the back. As we were about to put the key in to unlock this huge metal alarm door, so the alarm won't sound on us, the phone started to ring once again. Bryce had looked at me in pure fear. He and I didn't know what to do, nor to think. Since Felix was on the floor, and we were in the back room, we didn't know if he happened to pick up, rejected, or whoever was calling had stopped calling us. So Bryce and I had ran out the back door, threw the stuff away, and then we ran back inside. It was Bryce's idea, plus he's the one that had ran outside. I was just holding the door for him. We make our way back to the back room, and back onto the floor where Felix is. As we were walking to Felix, and tells us to lock everything down, and then turn off the lights, we were basically in lockdown for 30 minutes. And about this time, it was around 10:10 or 10:20. We get another phone call. Felix picks up, just with a hello, and on the other end was the main manager of our GameStop. I'll call him Cody. Cody says that he got the police involved, and that they got the guy. Cody goes and mocks whoever this guy is, and says that he was stupid enough to use his real phone number. He didn't even attempt to restrict his number in time, because apparently he had called our store and a few others with a restricted number. His name was never revealed, but apparently he was really going to rob our GameStop. I'm so glad that no one was hurt, or no GameStops were robbed in this event, and just saying that ours was a distraction. A woman comes in to trade in an old Xbox 360 that happens to be in a box. I open up the box, and the smell just hits me. Rat droppings, grime, cockroaches, all have spent time in this thing. Luckily, my manager had noticed, and we were able to decline the trade. Spent 5 minutes disinfecting the counter before I helped the next customer. One time I was trading in a PS4, I think. We were chatting while I was wiping his hard drive. and commenting on all the achievements that was made. Sometime during this conversation, he got nostalgic and changed his mind, but not before I had already deleted all of his data. I felt really terrible about it. One homeless-looking guy comes in during one of the few times that I'm alone in the store. He was dragging around a trash bag, and I was doing my best to keep him in eyesight, as he was all kinds of sketchy. He managed to stuff a 360 in a bag and then walk out, but I ran out and asked him to give it back, which he did, thank goodness, saying, "Please, don't call the cops on me." But I did. The one last thing that kind of shook me, this woman comes in with a gaggle of kids, maybe 4 or 5. They were all terrors, running around the different parts of the store, yelling, grabbing things, and rearranging them, seemingly causing distractions, while this woman tried on 3 separate occasions to get behind the counter. They end up buying something. But then I noticed under this big box, the oldest kid happened to pick up, that he had stuffed in his hands full of little DS games that were on the go-back section on the counter. There was more here, but I've lost some of the details. But it really gave me the impression that this was all coordinated by their mother. It's one thing to see adults steal, to see kids who are encouraged to do so as well. It's very terrible and sad. One of the employees that I worked with had received a phone call from someone asking about the trade and value and price of Final Fantasy IX. Final Fantasy was a little bit higher. The employee said that he would have to pay the difference. He was fine with that. In the state that the GameStop was in, it was considered to be a pawn shop, and as such, the customer needed to be 18 to pawn their trade-in. The customer happened to be 17, so he got his mother involved. She verifies it, and the employee explains that it would be $1.10 extra for the game. That enraged her. Hearing the trade policy only enrages her even more. In her mind, it should be an even game-for-game trade. The assistant manager comes to talk with her. Before leaving and paying for the game, the customer states that if she worked there, the service would be much better, and that they were terrible at customer service. So later on at that GameStop, there happened to be a sandwich place right next to it, where people would love to eat lunch and dinner. It sounds simple enough. However, they would send their kids to the GameStop while they would eat. The kids would cause havoc for the GameStop employees to deal with. We had to deal with this multiple times every single week. The children would take items off of the shelves, set them down anywhere else. They would make a mess, constantly be loud in the store. It would continue until their parents would come into the store and get them. In some cases, they never even came in. The parents would simply tap on the glass and motion for them it was time to go. Some of the employees that I worked with recalled that they would get a chuckle from seeing adults and children walk into the windows, and the joy would leave quickly, especially come closing time. This happens to be a very common occurrence for most GameStops that I have talked to. Other employees have complained about parents letting their kids not only urinate onto the floor, but also steal things because they're going around completely unsupervised at the time. I was going to get a game with the help of one of my friends. We all decided to get rid of one game that we didn't play anymore, and it was the same game for all 3 of us. I went in and asked if there was any way that we can turn in all 3 copies on one account. The woman there had told me no. Understanding the situation, I told them okay. Then we were going to sell these separately on all of our GameStop accounts, but put all the money on one card, please. The woman said, literally, "No, I cannot do that. Leave the store immediately." Her tone was really aggressive with us, and completely unwarranted. I was taken back and asked why. She continued to tell me to leave the store with no explanation. Then I started getting mad. I told her that I'm not going anywhere. I've been coming here since this was a Funko land in the 90s, and you're not going to treat me with disrespect like this. Call your manager. Get him here now. She walks away. My one friend was kind of friends with her, and went to go talk with her. The guy at the other end of the register was like, "Fuck it, I'll just help you out." He did the second, most reasonable thing, and then put the money on one card. We actually became good friends after that. He was a huge Resident Evil fan, and had an awesome Resident Evil 2 tattoo, so we got to talking about it. After we had left, my friend had told me that she was at a bar not too long ago, and got harassed by a guy who looked a lot like me. I wasn't even old enough to be in a bar yet, so I felt pretty pissed off at her for not being professional about the situation. I am a bit more understanding now, but seriously, it was not professional. She even knew that it wasn't me, and still acted like that. Needless to say, she wasn't working at that store much longer after that, because I made a formal complaint to the manager. So a few days ago, I'm walking downtown in the mid-afternoon when I become aware of a presence walking behind me. It's a busy city and a crowded street, so I don't think much of it. But this man stays right behind me for a few blocks. I can hear his breathing behind me, becoming ragged and coarse. His breathing gets heavier and heavier as he follows me. I don't want to turn around or make eye contact, but I can sense him following me. Then I hear him say it. "Honey, if you don't slow down, I'll never catch up to you." I get terrified. I feel my blood run cold, and I whip around to confront him. He's big, at least a foot taller than me, and I can see on his chest one of those little sticky paper ID tags. It's from a mental hospital. A mental patient has been following me for blocks, and is now trying to get me to slow down. I turn away, and immediately cross the street, not looking back at all. But he appeared to stop following me at that point. I'm just still terrified by the incident. This is probably how this would end if it was written by a woman. But it's not. I'm that guy. And this is how I became someone's stalker. I have been out of the office for over a week due to a nasty bout of bronchitis that utterly wiped me out, and my girlfriend. My poor loving partner who nursed me back to health had now herself become stuck at home. It was my first day back at work, and feeling bad for her, I decided to try and do something nice for her. She's an avid player of Elder Scrolls Online, you see, which just released a new expansion set, and that expansion allowed for a new class, and she had put off getting the expansion in order to focus on picking up the slack from my illness. So I decide that I'm going to get it for her. I decide on my lunch break to hit a nearby GameStop and get her the digital code. So on my lunch, I head out. Now here's the thing. The local GameStop and my office are on opposite sides of a very large hill. Also, I've been sick all week with bronchitis. Now I get to GameStop, buy the digital code, and text her a picture of it along with a message very jokingly telling her that she needs to wait till I get home to play it, because I'll never catch up otherwise. Then I start heading back to the office, and I start walking back up the hill. This is where the heat and the humidity, and the fact that I'm walking up a hill after, once again having bronchitis, starts to take its toll. And I begin, I'm quite sure very audibly, breathing heavily. I also just happen to be walking the exact path of a woman who has ended up directly in front of me, and I've now been walking behind her for a couple of blocks. Now, two important things about me. I'm a tech nerd, so I have the smartwatch and Bluetooth earbuds. Whole 9 yards, you see. Second, I'm a big dude, and the 6'2", 240-pound college athlete who works out a lot, and who can probably fuck you up. I'm a very scary-looking guy. I'm a goddamn teddy bear who posts pictures of his cat on Reddit, and wouldn't hurt a soul. But I'm fully aware that in the wrong context, I'm pretty terrifying. So what's the tech nerd relevance here? Smartwatch, Bluetooth. Girlfriend calls me, and I tap my watch to pick up the call without taking the phone out of my pocket, which syncs to my Bluetooth earbuds. My girlfriend hears that audible chime on her end, and knowing that I've picked up, launches into how she couldn't wait, and she's already playing it without me. And then when I, quite jokingly, as I'm glad, she's feeling up to it, tells her, "Honey, if you don't slow down, I'll never catch up." And the woman ahead of me freaks out and whips around. I immediately realize, holy shit, she thinks that I'm talking to her, because I'm not even holding a phone. I've been following her for the last 2 blocks, audibly wheezing. And then I realize something else. Remember how I said it was my first day back at work? I still wasn't 100%, and I had left my work ID at home, and I work in a very secure government building. The kind of building that doesn't just let you into it, even if all the security guards know your face because you've been there 10 years now. I had no ID. You still gotta get a near cavity search level screen in, and then wait for HR to verify that you still work there. And no, you're not a disgruntled employee looking to steal confidential files or something like that. Once you've had your morning colonoscopy, they do give you an ID, those little visitor badges, so you can come and go into the building throughout the day without having to have your pride and personal boundaries violated every single time. And this little sticky badge that I still had stuck to my chest bears the name of the government agency for which I work. I work for the Department of Mental Health, because despite looking like someone who may have at one point in his life had a nickname like Moose, which has on occasion, I think, led some to initially think the impression that I might be a tad bit slow on the uptake, I am actually the Regional Legal Director and Deputy Chief Counsel of the State Office of Health and Human Services. Her eyes move to the badge. She stays motionless for a moment, then turns and quickly hustles down a side street. It was at that moment I say to my girlfriend, I think some lady just thought that I was trying to kidnap her. So here's to you, downtown lady, who I am pretty sure thought that I was some heavy-breathing pervert mental patient instead of a government bureaucrat who was just trying to do something nice for his girlfriend on his lunch break while vastly overestimating his own physical well-being. If we ever do meet again, I'm afraid that your heart just won't take it. But I am truly sorry. I went by myself to a local game shop a few miles away from my house. After picking up my game, I got back into my car and pulled out of the parking lot to drive home. I immediately noticed that the dirty black Jeep that pulled out of the parking lot at the same time as me was now behind me and driving like a complete asshole. This dude was riding my ass and swerving back and forth like he was trying to get my attention. Although this was very annoying, I wasn't really concerned at this point. I tried merging lanes, but he stayed right behind me, merging along with me. I decided to speed up, and he also made sure to tailgate me as close to 70 miles per hour. I began to panic and took a shortcut through some quiet residential areas. The street was empty, so I veered into the neighborhood and ran a stop sign. The black Jeep ran the stop sign as well and was still driving recklessly close behind me. It was getting dark at the time, so I wasn't able to see the driver through the rearview mirror, but his license plate was clearly visible. I immediately called 911 and offed the plate. The officer told me to meet them at the Ralph's on the other side of the neighborhood where I was heading. It took me about 10 minutes to get there, but it felt like an hour with this creepy weird car lugging behind me. I finally entered the shopping plaza, and I noticed the police weren't here yet. I began to circle the parking lot, and he continued behind me. I circled the plaza 6 times before I saw 2 cop cars pull in. The black Jeep immediately took a turn, drove over a grass divider, and booked it out of the shopping center. One of the cop cars chased him out, and the other met with me to fill out an incident report. I never found out what happened with that person in the Jeep. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos, and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.